Hello everybody, my name is Cody bringing guys yet another video, and in today's video, continuing the little subclasses stuff and just the overall ranking of subclasses for every D&D 5e subclass. Today is gonna be quite the adventure because I'm doing the Cleric, which as you can see right here, there is a lot to go over when it comes to the Cleric. Now, just as a quick recap of what's happened, Artificer has a S rank, 1 in B, 2 here. Barbarian has some here. They've got some miscellaneous, and there are a few that are in the actual game itself, but are not over here, just because they were, this came out just a little bit before some things the book came out, I believe. That basically everything here is every book except for Tasha's Guide to Everything, which is where they added a couple of subclasses to a couple of the classes. And then there also might be a few things that'll have it listed here, but is not over on D&D itself because they might have had its name changed. It might have been, just not actually added or just removed for whatever reason. So miscellaneous things there, but today we'll be doing the Cleric, which as you can see, yeah, there is a lot to be going over here in the Cleric. I actually don't know if every single one that is here is going to be over here. So I may be thinking, oh boy, I have quite a lot to go over, when it turns out that 3 of these don't even exist or something like that. I don't know. But I will be slowly but surely getting through all of these today. They will not all come out at once because this is quite a lot of classes to talk about. So this will either be 2 or 3 videos depending on how fast I get through them. So, quick recap. This top one means that they're always going to be good, usually recommend if you just want to be the best that it can be. This one would be, yeah, it's always going to be good, but, something else might do it a little bit better, but this one could potentially be better than ones up here, depending on the campaign or how you want to play. This one means that, yeah, they're a pretty good pick, and there's nothing bad about them. Other classes might do something that they can do a bit better than what they can do, but it doesn't mean that you should be always choosing this one because they might have the flavor that you prefer. Down here at True Neutral, this is just saying, yeah, there's nothing bad about it. There's nothing phenomenal about it. Like, this isn't going to be your number one choice, but this one also should still be in consideration because it does do some pretty cool stuff. This one is saying that you probably shouldn't be picking it as it kind of takes away from what the core class wants to do and how you want to play the character. You can still pick it, but I wouldn't recommend it. I don't recommend picking this. Do not pick anything that I put in trash. I would not play. You might yourself say that, oh, the Battle Rager is great or College of Bard Swords is great. I personally would never choose one of those because it's not my play style. I don't want to be, the Battle Rager Barbarian or the Bard Swords. If you want to see why I put these down here, then go watch their respective videos, the Barbarian and the Bard class ranking, because I will explain why I'm putting them down here. If you want more in-depth, then you'll have to look at them yourselves to understand why they might have such a low ranking for a lot of other people, because I don't think that I'm the only one who is putting these all the way at the bottom of the tier list. So, but know that I've got a lot of stuff to be going over. Let's not delay any longer, and let's talk about the Cleric subclasses. So, unlike pretty much any other subclass, you get this right away. Usually you wait until 2 or 3 to get this. Nope, you get it right away at first level, and then you'll gain at second level the ability of Channel Divinity, which is a pretty cool little thing that can give you a couple of special effects. All of them will basically have the exact same shtick of Channel Divinity turn undead, and then usually, if I'm not mistaken, they'll give you, yep, right here. You start with 2 such effects, turn undead, and an effect determined by your domain. So every single cleric will have Channel Divinity turn undead, and then depending on your subclass, you'll get a second Channel Divinity effect. So right off the bat, looking at it, it does look like there's a couple of them that are either that are not correct here. Like Arcana is immediately one of the things. Arcana is not here. So either it is actually going to be here, and it was just renamed, or there just isn't actually, or it was just like never actually put in or something. Don't quite know where the change between them goes, but we'll start off right off the bat with the Death Domain. So, Death Domain at first level, well, real quick, I should say this. The thing that you'll be getting is something at second level, which is your Channel Divinity, and additional benefits at 6th, 8th, and 17th level. And then you'll also get domain spells. So, right off the bat, you get bonus proficiency. When the cleric chooses this domain at first level, he or she gains proficiency with martial weapons. So this just helps you be a little bit more of a offense type of thing if you're not going to be all spellcasting the entire time, which the clerics are not always going to be focusing on spellcasting like other spellcasters are. They'll sometimes want to do more damage melee than they want to do with healing or with actual spells. And they easily can be. And then at first level, you get Reaper. At first level, the cleric learns one necromancy cantrip of his or her choice from any spell list. When the cleric casts a necromancy cantrip that normally targets only one creature, the spell can instead target two creatures within range and within 5 feet of each other. So, a nifty little effect. And of course, you get these are the three initial your three necromancy cantrips. Of the three, I would definitely recommend probably Toll the Dead, if anything, because Spare the Dying, while cool, this allows you to touch a living creature that has 0 hit points and they become stable. Has no effect on undead or constructs. That's cool. If it doesn't really, if you want to choose that as a cantrip, then you can. I would not recommend it to be this cantrip, as this is kind of trying to give you the benefit of being able to affect two things at once. It's not going to be too often that you'll have two of your allies unconscious right next to each other at the same time. That's not exactly something that happens all the time. Chill Touch is cool, but once again, this is kind of something that's a little bit closer of an ability. When you can do Toll the Dead, which allows you to ring-a-ring-ding a bell, essentially, and this will damage anything. Is 1d8 if they 1d8 damage if they have taken damage already, then it'll be 1d12. So you can essentially, if they're within 5 feet of each other, then you can hit multiple enemies. So usually if you're trying to do multi-target abilities, damaging ones are always better. Channel Divinity as the extra one is Touch of Death. Starting at second level, the cleric can use Channel Divinity to destroy another creature's life force by touch. The creature's life force. We're gonna send him to the Shadow Realm, Yugi. When the cleric hits a creature with a melee attack, the cleric can use Channel Divinity to deal extra necrotic damage to the target. The damage equals 5 plus twice the cleric level. So that's basically saying that using Channel Divinity, this Channel Divinity will be 5 plus 2 times blank. At the moment, it would be level 2 because that's as early as you can get it. So if it would be 2 times 2, which is 4, plus 5 is 9, so you deal an extra 9 necrotic damage. This also means that at max level, if you're a max level cleric, you're going to be doing 2 times 20, which is 40, plus 5 of 45 extra necrotic damage, just for using a core function of your class. This is pretty good, just to be able to get a little bit of extra damage in, and it kind of makes sense because you learn to use martial weapons, so it's going to help out with your melee stuff. So you can do a bit more damage and send people to an earlier grave just a little bit faster. Teehee. I guess real quick, let's just max out to level 20 because I'm not going over every single thing that you get at every little piece. At level 6th, yeah, I believe it's level 6, correct? It'll be 6, 8, and 17, yep. So at level 6th, man, level 6. English is not my specialty, guys. You get Inescapable Destruction. Starting at 6th level, the cleric's ability to channel negative energy becomes more potent. Necrotic damage dealt by the character's cleric spells and channel divinity options ignore resistance to necrotic damage. So this isn't just, necrotic damage is probably like a middling ground on a resistance area. So it's pretty cool. Just, I mean, the fact that kind of a lot of your shtick will be necrotic damage and necrotic related things, with the channel divinity being necrotic damage and your Reaper ability giving you necromancy cantrips, Toll of the Dead being my choice, being a necromantic damaging spell, along with anything else that you might choose from all of this. So this allows you to do more because now anyone needs to will resist your necrotic damage no longer resist you. So being at 6th level, it is actually a pretty strong ability to give to you, just to be like, hey, you know, your whole shtick of this subclass? Well, now it's a bit better because less resistance to you. Kind of cool. At 8th level, you get Divine Strike. At 8th level, the Cleric gains the ability to infuse their weapon strikes with a necrotic energy. Once on each of the Cleric's turns, when they hit a creature with a weapon attack, the Cleric can cause the attack to deal an extra 1d8 necrotic damage to the target. When the Cleric reaches 14th level, their extra damage increases to 2d8. So it's now basically using a weaker version of your Channel Divinity Touch of Death, but now you can do it every single time, once a turn, not every single time you hit, but every first hit that you do, you can basically just do a little bit of extra necrotic damage to the enemy, continuing to push point the fact that you're a necrotic dealing divinity, divine character, and then because of your 6th level ability of inescapable destruction, your necrotic damage will no longer be resisted. So it's actually pretty cool, very strong. And at 17th level, you get Improved Reaper. When the cleric casts a necromancy spell of 1st through 5th level that target only one creature, the spell can instead target 2 creatures within range and within 5 feet of each other. If the spell consumes its material components, the cleric must provide them for each target. So this is actually pretty strong because there are a lot of, powerful kind of lower level necromancy spells. Of course, there's even stronger, higher level ones, but just for the fact that you probably would have been choosing a couple of necromancy spells here or there, and now your first through 5th level spells will also get the kind of effect of the original thing that you're getting of Reaper, where uh, your cantrip was able to target 2 at once if they're in necromancy. Now you're also getting cantrip 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 all get to target 2 creatures, as long as of course they're next to each other, and this also has to be a necromancy spell, so if you chose something like, Guiding Bolt is not a necromancy spell last time I checked, so this won't get that effect, so it's alright. And then also that you have to double any material components if you're doing it as well. It's an alright. It's, just literally it's improving upon something that you have earlier on, which is kind of what this whole subclass has done so far, is just slowly improve upon every little function that you're getting. You get to do an extra little thing with the necromancy cantrips. Here you get to do more necrotic damage. Here allows you necrotic damage to no longer be resisted. Here allows you to do more necrotic damage. Here allows you to help with your necromancy spells. It's really hammering in the point that you are a necromantic divine spellcaster, which is cool that it's focusing so well. It's not trying to go and do some stuff over here or over here and all these miscellaneous little areas. It's keeping in its lane, and it's keeping you for what this should be. And I definitely would say that if you want to be, more of either a high damage dealing cleric, this one is definitely one of them, because there are some pretty good necromancy spells. So getting the fact that you get to choose, you can do a bit more damage with them. You can do more damage overall when you're doing melee attacks. You can do a lot of miscellaneous things that are to do with exactly what this subclass is, which is death. So I would definitely say that if that's your style of play, if you don't want to be the healer and you want to do some more damage or some more, necrotic things, like if you're going into a campaign where there's a lot of undead, maybe not your smartest choice. If you're going into a campaign where maybe you're fighting the heavens and you're fighting celestials, which are weak, some of them are weak against necrotic damage, this might be your area of choice, because now you get to deal more damage to them. Just saying. Next up, of course, you also get, nope. Okay, I guess it does not show where the domain spells are. Either that or I'm blind, which is pretty easy. If the case is that I'm blind, then, well, that's nothing new to me. So yeah, I guess I am not seeing where, if you get any specific, no, it doesn't look like it. Okay. I was thinking if you guys got any specific, spells. Yeah, each domain has a list of spells as domain spells that you gain at the cleric levels noted in the domain description. So, don't know where that's popping up at. mainly because I'm kind of blind. But that's okay. You guys can find that out when you actually, if you want to play this domain. Sorry. Next up, we go to the Forge, which will be continuing on with that one. Bonus proficiencies will give you heavy armor and smith's tools, so this will allow you to be more of a hardy character, giving you the heavy armor, which is, a high defense as long as you have the strength for it, and then the smith tools to kind of give you that more dwarven building feel of it. You get Blessing of the Forge. At first level, you gain the ability to imbue magic into a weapon or armor. At the end of a long rest, you can touch one non-magical object, that is a suit of armor or a simple or martial weapon. Until the end of your next long rest, or until you die, the object becomes a magic item, granting a +1 bonus to AC if it's armor, or a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls if it's a weapon. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. So that is just extremely powerful, because not only are you now able to get heavy armor, and you have your weapons, of course, but you can also now make them a +1. So, of course, you can give this to yourself so that you can either hit harder with a melee weapon, or you can potentially not take damage by having the +1 to your AC, or you can give this to any of your allies who might need it that day. So if you're going into battle and you know that, oh, you don't need to have more armor because your armor is 18, 17, 18, 19, that range for your AC, well, maybe you want to give it to your rogue who has, a little bit less. Give it to your wizard who has a little bit less. Of course, they can't wear armor, but, maybe you can work around by instead of being armor, your DM will allow you to maybe put it on clothes because they don't mind that you do that. But then, of course, you can also make it to where your barbarian just has a +1, great axe, so they're getting a +1 on top, +1 to hit, and then also a second damage die as damage rolls, so, they can be hitting like a truck. Who knows? You also will get the Channel Divinity Artisan's Blessing. You conduct an hour-long ritual that crafts a non-magical item that must include some metal, a simple or martial weapon, a suit of armor, 10 pieces of ammunition, a set of tools, or another metal object. See Chapter 5, blah blah blah. The creation is completed at the end of the hour, coalescing in an unoccupied space of your choice on a surface within 5 feet of you. The thing you create can be something that is worth no more than 100 gold. As part of this ritual, you must lay out metal, which can include coins, with a value equal to the creation. The metal irreversibly coalesces and transforms into the creation of the ritual's end, magically forming even non-metal parts of the creation. The ritual can create a duplicate of a non-magical item that contains metal, such as a key, if you possess the original during the ritual. So this is basically just allowing you to be a smith without being at a actual forge. So if you need to be creating stuff and you don't have, you have the resources, but you don't have the actual proper tools and the forge itself to make this, you can just make it yourself. And in theory, you're also, it has to be something of these. Of course, saying that it's another metal object, you probably have to look into this one. Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly, but you probably can't be making money. So don't think that you can, get your old suit of armor and turn that into a little bit of money for yourself. You still have to go and sell it if you want it that way. But you can create yourself a new set of armor if yours was broken, or if you guys need a new piece of armor. If you're running low on ammo stuff, you can do it here. If you need a thing of tools for whatever reason, if you need a new weapon, a lot of things that can happen. It's actually pretty cool and fairly strong. And then also the fact that you can create duplicates of stuff if you have the original item, which means that potentially you could knock out a guard, take the key that you need, make it, give the key back to the guard, and then you're all fine and dandy. So you technically never stole something because you returned it. At 6th level, you get Soul of the Forge. Your mastery of the Forge grants you special abilities. You regain resistance to fire damage, which is one of not the most common damage type, aside from, of course, slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning, like the most magical related one. That's probably the best one to be resistant to, because a lot of things can do fire damage. And also, while wearing heavy armor, you get a +1 bonus to AC. And this is not a magically given +1 bonus. So at level 6, if you still aren't wearing a magical armor that is giving you like a +1 bonus or just no magic armor, you're now gaining a +1 bonus, and you can still, on top of that, give yourself the blessing from here. So you could potentially, while wearing heavy armor, just have a natural +2 bonus to AC, just because you're the soul of the forge now, which is basically just as long as you're wearing heavy armor, which is going to continue the point that you should be wearing heavy armor if you're playing the blessing, if you're playing a domain of the forge, and then you also get a +1 AC, so you could be pretty tanky as this type of as this subclass, so no point in not doing it. Your 8th level ability, the Divine Strike, well, when you hit once on your turn, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can cause the attack to deal 1d8 fire. At 14th level, the extra becomes 2d8. Fire is one of the most common damage types. It's also one of the most common resistances, so it's kind of cool that you get to just straight up make extra, because this isn't, anything where it's a limited amount that you can do per day or anything like that. It's just once per turn you can do it. So it's cool that you can do extra damage, and even if it is resisted, it's still extra damage. So, no, I don't think any player is gonna, complain that they're getting to do a little bit of extra damage to the big baddie at the end. And then at 17th level, you get Saint of Forge and Fire. Your blessed affinity with fire and metal becomes more powerful. You gain immunity to fire damage. So if you get all the way up to 17th level of the capstone, you straight up are just immune to fire damage, which means that that's pretty strong. Especially because by this time you'll probably be getting hit by some pretty high level stuff. So not having to worry about fire damage, it's actually really nice. Because not a lot of things grant you immunity when you're the player. Like NPC stuff and like monsters getting immunity. Yeah, that's pretty common. The characters themselves getting immunity from like not magic and not potion stuff that only last a limited amount of time and take resources. You're just immune to fire damage. That's pretty cool. And also, while wearing heavy armor, you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks. Now that, a lot of things are going to be magical, from actual magical attacks if they're doing this type of damage, but for the times that they aren't being magic based, like if it's just like a bunch of henchmen who are coming at you with basic swords and stuff, and you're getting hit by basic arrows, you now get to cut the damage in half, so it's pretty cool that you don't have to really worry about them too much. I mean, the main thing right here is just the fact that you get to become immune to fire damage, so you don't have to worry about that ancient fire, that ancient red dragon's breath attack on you anymore. You can just stand there and walk through it. So, yeah, it's actually pretty strong. Really, I would say that the main thing that's kind of down on it is this, because early on, yeah, this is pretty cool, but like later on, you probably want those magical items, so like getting your new, basic suit of armor, your basic weapons, and not like magical-y ones. If you have, somebody in your party who can enchant stuff, then this is still kind of helpful, but later on, it's not exactly the strongest of things. This one will always be helpful. Of course, the issue is that it has to be non-magical to touch, which usually later on, they're probably not everything is gonna be magical, but of course, if if you don't have a magical item, then yeah, this is pretty good and still helpful. So you can find use for everything. Soul of the Forge, getting the +1 AC while wearing heavy armor for yourself is good. Extra damage here that is fire, but still extra damage. And then immunity to fire damage and resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage is pretty good. And hey, look, your domain spells. Yeah, this was not here when I was looking at death, right? I'm not just dumb, right? Yeah, no, it is just not here. Okay, good. So I'm not dumb. So you get your domain spells, which will be at first level. You will always have these. These will not count towards what you already know. You will always know these, so you don't have to worry about it, and they will not like take away from your prepared spells. They are just their own existent spells. At first level, you'll have Identify and Searing Smite. It's really good to have Identify, especially early on, and it's for free. And then Searing Smite to kind of continue working with your fire stuff and your melee kind of feel. Heat Metal, a magic weapon, elemental weapon, and protection from energy. Fabricate and Wall of Fire, animate objects, and creation. they're all actually pretty good spells, not gonna lie. The early on getting Identify is huge, Seeing Smite for a little bit of extra damage. Heat Metal is a extremely powerful spell, especially like even late game. Using Heat Metal is powerful. Magic Weapon is pretty cool. Elemental Weapon and Protection from Energy, not bad, getting them at level 5 for free. Fabricate and Wall of Fire. Wall of Fire is always pretty nifty. Just be able to kind of like cut off and quarantine an area. And then Animate Objects is actually pretty powerful if you know how to use it properly. And Creation. All in all, they make sense to be given to this class, and they're all pretty powerful. The only, like, I'm going to put this a little bit above. I wouldn't quite put it all the way up to Great quite yet. Mainly because while the late game stuff is pretty good and the domain stuff, the spells are pretty good, Blessing the Forge and your Channel Divinity kind of losing their strength once you get up to like the 11, like the 10 level area. They kind of start losing out on what they can do. But of course, like spellcasters, their subclasses don't need to do the most amount of stuff because spellcasters are a very strong spell. You know, their main thing is spells, not what they're actually getting from their natural features themselves, which is why this seems to be really lacking a lot of stuff, especially if you look at the barbarian that I showed off when there was a lot of stuff that they were getting all throughout the entire time. Yeah, it's because their main focus is the fact that they're getting a lot of spells. And as you can see, they have all of these here already, but you will get to choose more prepared spells that do not count against. Like these here do not count against what you actually can prepare later on, so no need to worry there. Next up in your Divine Domain will be the Order Domain from the Magic the Gathering. Is Order here? No. Order. Order is here. It is just, this isn't in alphabetical order, but this is in alphabetical order because that's how they work. So we're dealing with this guy right here next. The Cleric Order. Right off the bat with that, your domain spells will be, at first level, getting Command and Heroism. Command for free and Heroism for free. Actually not too bad. Third level getting Hold Person, pretty strong, and Zone of Truth. May not always be needed, but the fact that you always have it means that if it is ever needed for whatever reason, you have it for free. At 5th level, you get Mass Healing Word, really strong, just getting to heal a lot of people, even if it's a little bit. The fact that you get to heal a lot of people is pretty neat. And Slow. Slow is extremely powerful to use. Compulsion and Locate Creature, pretty strong. And Commune and Dominate Person. Dominate Person for free. For free, just meaning, like, it's not going to be like a free spell you can cast however much you want. It's just saying, for free, it does not work against your prepared spells. Pretty cool. Your bonus proficiencies will be gaining proficiency with heavy armor and proficiency in either intimidation or persuasion. So it's kind of keeping like that, person of power, person of authority, as it will say with voice of authority here. So choosing whichever one you want. And then at first level, you gain Voice of Authority. You can evoke the power of law to embolden an ally to attack. If you cast a spell with a spell slot of first level or higher and target an ally with the spell, that ally can use their reaction immediately after the spell to make one weapon attack against a creature of your choice that you can see. If the spell targets more than one ally, you choose who gets to make the attack. So this is basically just saying that if you're going to start, bolstering your allies, trying to support them in some way, whether it's healing them, whether it's giving them bless, whether it's giving them any other type of buff like heroism or something, they can immediately make an attack against somebody. So if it has to be a weapon attack, so this wouldn't be too useful if you're giving this to the wizard, because they probably don't want to be trying to punch the guy, but the fact that they can immediately, you buff the barbarian, they can immediately use their reaction to swing at the guy, so it's a little bit of extra damage and a kind of nifty little perk that you get. Your Channel Divinity is Order's Demand. You can use your Channel Divinity to exert an intimidating presence over others. As a reaction, you present your holy symbol, and each creature of your choice that can see or hear you within 30 feet of you must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you until the end of your next turn, or until the charmed creature takes any damage. You can also You can also cause any of the charmed creatures to drop what they are holding when they fail the saving throw. So this is basically just a mass charm creature ability, essentially. The perk of this one is, well, yes, they have the normal charmed condition. You can also immediately, to anybody who fails and is charmed by you, you can make them immediately drop whatever they're holding. So if you're using this and you're facing a bunch of enemies who are holding weapons, you catch 3 of them slipping with this, and then all of a sudden they all drop their weapons. They're now defenseless. They also will drop their shield if they're holding it, and technically, if they're grappling someone, they would also drop the person that they're grappling, technically. So if they're trying to, like, they're holding somebody hostage, you use this and they immediately will let go of them by how it's worded. So it is actually pretty strong inside and outside of combat, so nothing bad there. The fact that you can use this in and out of combat is a plus, but of course it is the charm condition, which things can be immune to charm. A lot of creatures, especially later on, will have a high wisdom saving throw. So, benefits and negatives there. Embodiment of Law at 6th level. You have become remarkably adept at channeling magical energy to compel others. If you cast a spell of the enchantment school using a spell slot of 1st level or higher, you can change the spell's casting time to 1 bonus action for this casting, provided the spell's casting time is normally 1 action. You can use this feature to a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum of once, and you regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest. So, this is very similar to the sorcerer's meta magic of Quicken Spell, which allows them to change any spell that is 1 action to become a 1 bonus action. So this just kind of like narrows it down to it has to be an enchantment-based spell, which means that you might have to start building yourself around the fact that you want to be an enchantment-based, or choose like specific enchantment ones that would be better to use them and then still have like a something else. Of course, there is still the rule that if you are going to cast 2 spells in a turn, even in this case and in the sorcerer's case for their meta magic, if you cast like a level 3 spell, like a level 3 enchantment spell here, or just any level 3 spell for the sorcerer's quicken spell, and it becomes their bonus action, their normal action can still, if it's going to be a spell, because you've already cast a spell, it can't be a 1st level or higher spell. It has to be a cantrip at this point. But because you are actually going to be able to run over and attack somebody with a melee weapon, probably, this one will be fine. The sorcerer really can't be running over and hitting somebody with a sword because they're a sorcerer. But the fact that you can run around with a melee weapon in your hand, this one is alright to use. So, because you wouldn't naturally have something to do with your bonus action anyways, so getting to switch this to your bonus action, if you don't already have something like spiritual weapon, so you can just go, okay, well I can make this blank spell used as an action, as a bonus action, and then I can run up and hit the enemy still with my melee weapon. It's alright, nothing too bad about it. You Divine Strike, you infuse it with Divine Energy, you can cause the attack to deal 1d8 psychic damage. Extremely powerful, the second least resisted damage type right before force damage. If I'm not mistaken, force damage is the least resisted damage typing in the game. And then its psychic is just a little more resisted than force, but still pretty unresisted, so having it as psychic damage is extremely powerful. So 1d8, and then 14th level it becomes 2d8, just like every other subclass has been so far. And at 17th level, for your capstone, you get Order's Wrath. Enemies you designate for destruction wilt under the combined efforts of you and your allies. If you deal your Divine Strike damage to a creature on your turn, you can curse that creature until the start of your next turn. The next time one of your allies hits the cursed creature with an attack, the target also takes 2d8 psychic damage, and the curse ends. You can curse a creature in this way only once per turn. So this is basically saying that when you use your Divine Strike, the enemy will be affected by the Divine Strike immediately, and then when they get hit again, they'll be affected by your Divine Strike again. So it's a pretty nifty ability, continuing with the psychic damage, highly unresisted. So if you are making melee strikes often enough that you can be cursing creatures, or if you want to continually to stack damage over and over and over again, you're basically just getting 4d8 psychic damage for free as long as your allies are attacking what you've attacked, which a lot of times your allies will probably attack what you've attacked, especially if they're gonna try to play around with this one too. Not bad. For a 17th level ability, is this the strongest thing you could get? No, but of course, capstones for spellcasters are not always going to be what's capstones for um, martial classes will be. So it's pretty good for what it is. All in all, between the what you get as your domain spells being, a lot of if a lot of these are kind of like wisdom based things, so if you're going up against people with high wisdom or can't be affected by them, affected by like charm or affected by actually I don't think any of these are charm, but with your divinity one, and then here this one is pretty strong at any point because it allows for more damage that you can do. Of course, how often are you going to be, healing and like bolstering your allies constantly that they can do this? And they may have something better to use for use their reaction on that you immediately make an attack roll at the moment. It's alright. This one, as long as they can be affected by charm, uh, and they don't have a high wisdom, this one will be good inside and outside of combat. Embodiment of Law, it only affects enchantment spells, but even then, anytime that you can make a spell as a bonus action is pretty cool. Psychic damage, very strong. Getting psychic damage again, pretty strong. Probably going to put this one just below the death one, just because you get a lot of kind of strong perks with this, featuring, like focusing around what you are and everything to do with necrotic damage, which is extremely helpful and powerful. The one kind of negative is the fact that, for whatever reason, they don't have their own domain spells, which is a little odd. So that might actually take them down one just because of that. But what can you do? Next up, you get the Grave domain, which is indeed existing. Right off the bat, you'll gain your domain spells for the Grave domain. At first level, you'll get Bane, extremely powerful, and False Life. Gives you a little bit of temporary hit points, why not? Gentle Repose and Rave Enfeeblement. This one is pretty helpful if you're facing a lot of non-spellcasters and they focus on their strength. You get Revivify. Anytime you can get something that can bring people back to life, very powerful. Vampiric Touch. Blight and Death Ward. Death Ward being very powerful. Anti-Life Shell and Raise Dead. Yeah, they're getting some pretty good spells all in all, so nothing too bad, nothing, the spectacular, like nothing like, oh my god, they're getting that. Nothing like that, but definitely some pretty powerful things, some stuff that you would already want to be choosing, really, and then the fact that you're getting them all the time, yeah, it's actually pretty cool. At first level, you get Circle of Mortality. You gain the ability to manipulate the line between life and death. When you would normally roll one or more dice to restore hit points with a spell to a creature at 0 hit points, you instead use the highest number possible for each dice. In addition, you learn the Spare the Dying cantrip, which doesn't count against the number of Cleric cantrips you know. For you, it has a range of 30 feet, and you can cast it as a bonus action. So this one right here, the Grave domain, is all about making sure that people do not die. They don't actually go to the grave, which is why you get a couple of things that are to do with bringing back the dead. And then you get Spare the Dying, which is normally a touch. You get it as a range of 30, and it can be a bonus action. Pretty powerful, but this ability right here, when you would roll to heal something that is at 0 hit points, as in they are unconscious at some way, of whether they're making death saving throws or they're just stable, if you try to heal them, you can just heal them as max. So if you're going to go ahead and do, because technically what you can do is, because this is the cantrip, it can be used as a bonus action, which means that your ally can go down. As a bonus action, you spare them from a distance, and then you heal them up with, with healing words or something, or cure wounds if you're close enough, and they're healed maximum amount of health points, which can be a lot depending on what level you're casting it as. So whether this is you're healing, at early on, a first level, third, like first, second, third, fourth level area, or you're healing somebody when you guys are level 20, this can heal and be the most useful thing around. You also get Eyes of the Grave. You gain the ability to occasionally sense the presence of the undead, whose existence is an insult to the natural cycle of life. As an action, you can open your awareness to magically detect undead. Until the end of your next turn, you know the location of any undead within 60 feet of you that isn't behind total cover and that isn't protected from divination magic. This sense doesn't tell you anything about a creature's capabilities or identify, and you can use this in equal, not times, times equal to your wisdom modifier. You gain them all back at a long rest. So this is just basically going to allow you to do stuff with more undead related things, so you can always see if there is undead, lurking around, as long as they aren't completely protected by, just not being at sight, like if they're in another room, you won't be able to see them, and if they somehow are protected from divination magic, you can't see them, so this is just a neat little extra ability that you get on top of what you can already do at first level. And your Channel Divinity at second level is Path to the Grave. Starting at second level, you can use your Channel Divinity to mark another creature's life force for termination. Love the wording, guys. As an action, you choose one creature you can see within 30 feet of you, cursing it until the end of your next turn. The next time you or an ally of yours hits the cursed creature with an attack, the creature has vulnerability to all of that attack's damage, and then the curse ends. So basically what this is saying is that on your turn, you can go, hey you're gonna die today. And then the next time an ally hits it, they take double damage. Just the entirety of whatever they're hit with, double damage. And I think technically how it's worded is even if they are immune or resistant to a certain damage type, like if you're hitting a fire dragon, I'm just going to go with red dragon because they're resistant and sometimes immune to fire damage, they are now 100% vulnerable. Not just neutral to it or taking one down, like they go from immune to resistant, resistant to neutral, neutral to vulnerability. No, they go from immunity to vulnerable, meaning that they will take the double damage, and then they go back to what they normally are. But this basically means that if you really want to hit something hard, you basically go, okay, I'm going to do this. Whoever hits you next, they're going to hit you really, really hard. So it's a pretty powerful ability. At 6th level, you get Sentinel at Death's Door. At 6th level, you gain the ability to impede death's progress. As a reaction, when you or a creature you can see within 30 feet of you suffers a critical hit, you can turn that hit into a normal hit. Any effects triggered by a critical hit are cancelled. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, and you get them all back at a long rest. So this is basically saying, hey DM, that's really cool that you rolled a natural 20. There's only a 5% chance of that happening, and it's gone. As long as you're within 30 feet of your allies, that critical hit that they just suffered, gone. It's just a normal hit now. Like, you just straight up are taking the fun away from the DM. Because when the DM, whenever, a natural 20 is rolled and, you're just like, the DM's like, yeah, man, I'm going to do real damage to you or something, you can just say, nope, delete that. You basically just rolled a 19 instead. You just rolled enough to hit my guy. Psych, idiot. Yeah, that is beyond powerful. And this is just at 6th level. Your wisdom modifier at this point is probably going to be a +4 or +5, which means that you can do this 5 times in a day, essentially. You can cancel 5 critical hits on your team. So if your DM is rolling well enough to hit you with 5 crits, to be honest, if you're in one battle and you're facing one enemy and the DM has quote-unquote rolled 5 crits or more, you might want to start questioning your DM to show the rolls. Not everybody is using like Averate or something, which is like a Discord function that I believe D&D Beyond can give to you. You can go onto their page and you can find it, and that basically rolls into Discord, so you can always see what is rolled. It really helps with kind of cheat and stuff, but this basically can cancel any d20 roll, so as long as it's a damage. It won't cancel if they made a natural 20 saving throw. It's not affected, but any attack. So at 8th level, you add your wisdom modifier to the damage you deal with any cleric cantrip. So yeah, you're not going to be the melee focus that the other people have been so far. You are a pure, not defense, but healer almost, like keep you from dying style of play, because you're not getting a lot of healing really. I mean, you are with Circle of Mortality, but you're not going to be the damage dealer. Now, well, your Cleric cantrips will add your Wisdom modifier, which is pretty cool, and you'll probably be wanting to use your Cleric, like Cleric stuff, spells more often with this guy, so it is definitely pretty cool. And at 17th level, you get Keeper of Souls. Starting at 17th level, you can seize the trace of vitality from a parting soul and use it to heal the living. When an enemy you see dies within 60 feet of you, you or one creature of your choice that is within 60 feet of you regains hit points equal to the enemy's number of hit dice. You can use this feature only once, only if you are incapacitated. Once you use it, you can't do so until the start of your next turn. So there's no limit to how much you can do this in a day. It's just you only get this once a turn. This is basically just saying that you can heal your team by the hit dice. 20th level creatures will have 20 hit dice, which means that you'll heal your team 20 HP just because somebody died. And this also isn't saying when you see an enemy die, use your reaction to do this. This is just something you do. So it goes, oh look, the enemy died. Guess what, Barbarian? You heal. Guess what, Wizard? You're healed. No reaction needed, so you can still use your reaction for other things, for preventing that natural 20 that the DM just rolled. And then next turn, you can do it again. So if you're facing one enemy, is this going to be the most helpful? It's alright. If you're facing, a horde of enemies that are dying a whole bunch, is this going to be helpful? So, yeah, that's pretty good. I would definitely say that all in all, what this is giving you, S tier, easily. This is, your Cleric is basically going to be, hey, don't worry, you're not going to die. Not on my watch. Oh, that attack? Not on my watch. Oh, you need a little bit more HP? You got it. Oh, you're unconscious? Don't worry, spared. A lot of HP back. Yeah, this guy is, the Grave Domain Cleric is extremely powerful. So, definitely something that I would recommend for people to choose if they want to play, this style of Cleric. Next up, probably the last one I'll go over because I've gone over 4, so this will be the 5th one. Will be Knowledge. Yeah, this will probably be the last one. We'll go over the Domain of Knowledge. Knowledge. You're gonna be Ty Lopez as you're in the Hollywood Hills with all your books. So, what do you get at first level? You get the Blessings of Knowledge. At first level, you learn 2 languages of your choice. You also become proficient in your choice of the 2 following skills: Arcana, History, Nature, or Religion. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check you make that uses either of those skills. So, basically, you become an expert in them. So you get 2 languages, go with Elvish, and go with Orc, just because. And then you can go, if you knew that you're going to be choosing this one, then when you're looking at your proficiencies here, and you knew you wanted those, you should have waited just a sec, because now your religion is doubled, and your history is doubled, which makes you big brain, giga brain. So, not a lot of extra spell things, but it's definitely, as I've said a lot, it's really helpful to have more skills, and these are basically expert, as your proficiency bonus is doubled when you're using them. And then you're getting to know more languages, so you can talk to more creatures and understand more things. Yeah, it's really helpful to know all those types of things. Your channel divinity at 2nd level is Knowledge of the Ages. Starting at 2nd level, you can use your channel divinity to tap into a divine well of knowledge. As an action, you choose one skill or tool. For 10 minutes, you have proficiency with the chosen skill or tool. So, this is pretty helpful. It's just gonna be your thing to be doing in combat? No, but not every single thing to do with Divine should be combat related. I mean, this can really help you on a journey, because if you need to be stealthy, well, you can use this, become proficient in stealth, so now you don't have to be as heavy-footed, because now you're proficient in stealth. You guys are going to be swimming or climbing something, well, make yourself better at proficient in athletics or acrobatics. So, it's pretty helpful. This is not a combat-oriented one. This is not really a combat-oriented class so far, but not everything should be combat. Just saying. At 6th level, you get Channel Divinity, Read Thoughts. At 6th level, you can use your Channel Divinity to read a creature's thoughts. You can then use your access to the creature's mind to command it. As an action, choose one creature that you can see within 60 feet of you. That creature must make a Wisdom saving throw. If the creature succeeds on the saving throw, you can't use this feature on it again until you finish a long rest. If the creature fails its saving throw, you can read its surface thoughts, those foremost in its mind, reflecting its current emotions and what it's actively thinking about when it is within 60 feet of you. This effect lasts for 1 minute. During that time, you can use your action to end this effect and cast a suggestion spell on the creature without spending a spell slot. The target automatically fails its saving throw against the spell. So this basically is the Channel Divinity Detect Thoughts, the spell Detect Thoughts. You get to use that as a Channel Divinity, and you get to use the suggestion spell right afterwards, and they automatically fail the suggestion spell. So this can be pretty helpful, especially if you're trying to do like a little bit of interrogation going, if you're trying to get somebody to do something. It is pretty helpful. As I've said, this is an outside of combat, so if your campaign is all about combat and there isn't a lot of like, trying to interrogate, trying to solve a mystery, trying to figure stuff out all the time, you probably wouldn't want to choose this domain. But if you are focusing more like outside of combat oriented things, this guy is definitely your area of expertise. At 8th level, you get Potent Spellcasting, Wisdom modifier to the damage you deal with any Cleric cantrip. Yeah, it's once again exactly what the other one got. And at 17th level, you get Visions of the Past. Starting at 17th level, you can call up visions of the past that relate to an object that you hold or your immediate surroundings. You spend at least 1 minute in meditation and prayer, then receive dreamlike, shadowy glimpses of recent events. You can meditate in this way for a number of minutes equal to your wisdom modifier, or your wisdom score, and must maintain concentration during that time as if you're casting a spell. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. This is always nice when you can do it after a short rest, so you can meditate, do this. If you need information later on, just take your short rest, and you can do it again. It's pretty cool. Object reading. So this is if you're holding an object as you meditate, you can see visions of the object's previous owner. After meditating for 1 minute, you learn how the owner acquired and lost the object, as well as the most recent significant event involving the object and that owner. If the object was owned by another creature in the recent past, within a number of days equal to your wisdom score, so this is where you'll get like the really big number usually. Same with your wisdom score here. So this is where, you're getting the 20 thing instead of like the modifier of +5. This is where you're getting the 20-minute thing right here. This is the number of days equal to your wisdom score, so 20 days. You can spend 1 additional minute for each owner to learn you can spend 1 additional minute for each owner to learn the same information about that creature. So you can keep kind of looking around at the owners to find more and more information about the creature and stuff. Or if you're trying to get an input on an area and not an object, as you meditate, you see visions of recent events in your immediate vicinity, a room, street, tunnel, clearing, or the like, up to a 50-foot cube, which is pretty large actually. Going back a number of days equal to your wisdom score. For each minute you meditate, you learn about one significant event. Beginning with the most recent, significant events typically involve powerful emotions such as battles and betrayals, marriages and murders, birth and funerals. However, they might also include more mundane events that are nevertheless important in your current situation. So, at 17th level, this whole domain right here, if you're trying to play do a cleric and your campaign is like a dungeon delving campaign and you're trying to do a whole bunch of combat and you're just dungeon delving and doing fights every day, 2 or 3 fights every day, and it's a lot of combat, not a lot of downtime, not a lot of like need of information. This is not the one that you want. But if you are doing something that is like, oh, there's a murder mystery, oh, you're trying to help stop a war, trying to overthrow something, try to figure something out, this guy will do so much for you, as you'll get more languages, you'll get you get, your more languages, your more proficiencies here. You'll get the ability to know more things, to know what people are thinking, and then be able to control them that way. You'll get to know a lot of things and a lot of pretty good details from areas or objects. For the fact that this is literally what nice is, it'll be at the bottom, but this is what nice is it literally can be perfect in a certain campaign. If you're in a campaign that is focusing around what this guy, what the knowledge domain does, then this is the best thing that you can run. If you're in a campaign where this is the complete opposite of what this cleric should be doing, then you can't do anything. You're in an area where you're having a lot of things that need to be like observed and have knowledge of an area or an object or to overthrow and get information, phenomenal. Combat, trash. So it'll be at the bottom just because there's a little, more niche areas where this excels at compared to where, this gives you some damage, this helps with damage, this helps with damage, and I want to put this one up just because of what the other few classes that we've seen. The fact that these are, a little bit down on what they can do compared to this guy, and then this one is literally just phenomenal or trash. There is no real in between. It's either because you're not going to run this if you're doing combat oriented stuff, and you're not, but you will want to run this if you're doing knowledge based stuff. If you're trying to obtain lore, if you're trying to obtain thoughts and concepts and all that. So pick and choose which area you want to be specializing in, and then choose the subclass that you believe will do best. Later on today, there will be let's see what's left for it. Later on today, you will see the life domain, the light domain, the nature domain, the peace domain, the tempest domain, the trickery domain, the twilight domain, and the war domain. All in one video? Probably not. It'll probably be like life, light, nature, peace, and then tempest, trickery, twilight, war. Depending on how long they go over. There is the Arcana one right here. I don't actually know. There might be an equivalent over here that is... Yeah, there is no peace domain, as I can see. There is no peace domain. That probably is not what the Arcana domain became. But there is kind of a quote-unquote equivalent there. So I guess this will be the first time that there will be a don't know enough. Technically, it's not that I don't know enough. It's just that it doesn't exist. So, just like I also don't know off the top of my head, I don't know if Long Death Monk actually exists still. Because off the top of my head, I don't remember that one. But to be fair, I also don't play Monk too often. Not as often as, I'd play a fighter or a rogue if I'm going martial. But this is the current ranking of the subclasses. So far, they have everything that has been, I believe, right? Everything that has been here, but everything that is here has not been here. Because Arcana does not exist here, but everything that has been here does exist here. Ha! Words. But that does it for this video. If you guys did enjoy, then consider hitting the like button and commenting down below what you guys did enjoy, so I continue doing it to continue making the videos as well as I have. If you guys want to know, if you guys didn't like the video, then go ahead and dislike and comment down below what you didn't like, so I can improve upon it. If you guys want to know when I upload, then the best way to know is by subscribing. But that does it for this video. Until next time, bye guys.